Today, on the last reset of 10.1.7, the last reset of Season 2, we are coming up with a couple more very useful and informative guides on what's gonna happen in the first week and even the first weeks of Season 3. You know, covering the answers of some of the more confused players as soon as the patch launches. The question of what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be doing? Farming, grinding, looting? What's the more optimal route for my characters at the release of a patch on what to do or how to maximize the gains of your character, whether it is rep or whether it is gear, currency, etc, etc. We are starting with the first one, which is the more try-hardy one, the more competitive one, which is the guide to get to Renown 18 as fast as possible. This is because, obviously, at Renown 18 is when you unlock the Augment Rune, the infinite Augment Rune from the Dream Warden's rep vendor. Now, you might have already heard this, that the requirement to do this grinding for the rep requires 2 characters, because you need one character to complete all of the steps first, so that he can reach Renown 10. At Renown 10, you gain the Word of an Ally buff, which gives you 100% more rep gains on your other characters until you reach Renown 10. So the trick here is to get to Renown 10 with one character so that your second character can get a much bigger boost in reputation gains, and that is what will allow it to get to Renown 18. You might have heard about this, that you should do the whole quest and rep grinding first with your alt, so your main can then get to Renown 18. This is not necessary, it's not relevant. As soon as you reach Renown 18, the Augment Rune will be unlocked and purchasable by every character on your account. So it does not really matter with which character you get to Renown 18. You will just be able to buy this on any character. The caveat is, of course, that this Augment Rune will cost 100,000 gold and will have to be purchased multiple times if you want it on multiple characters. But still, it's not really necessary to do this first on your alt. You know, maybe you have a main character that is very slow at moving around or killing mobs one by one, maybe, you know, a Shadow Priest or something, and your alt is much faster. Your alt, maybe it's a rogue or a demon hunter, and you think you can be faster doing the whole grind to 18 with your demon hunter alt. You can do this. You can do this because your main will still be able to buy the Augment Rune, even if he is all the way back down at Renown 10. The whole checklist for getting to Renown 18 is quite simple. After you do this one time with your alt, you repeat this with your main character. It starts very simply by doing all of the main chapter quests available at the release of the patch, as well as all of the side quests available at the release of the patch. Of course, we have our handy guide giving you the straight up links to every one of the chain quests, so you even know where to go to start all of these quests. Same goes for the weekly quests, doing the Super Bloom new weekly quest as well as the general weekly quest you get every week from Valdrakken, together with a couple of profession quests. Collecting every week the dreaming chests around the zone by using sleep and detaching from your body to go and finding these chests, together with the one-time special treasures around the zone. What's left after doing all of this is very simply just doing elite rares as well as any world quest that awards reputation as a reward. The only caveat, the only thing to remember really about this whole strategy is to save all of the reputation tokens you will be given. That's because reputation tokens can be used at any time, which means if you can gain some rep increase buffs, it's very, very beneficial. For example, at the beginning of the patch, there will be the Dark Moon Fair active, going through the first week all the way up to Saturday. With the Dark Moon Fair, you can of course go there to get With the Dark Moon Fair, you can of course have top hats, increasing your rep gains by 10%. So for example, right this weekend on Sunday or Monday and Tuesday when the Dark Moon Fair opens, you can start stocking up on a bunch of top hats to then go into the new patch with the rep buff always available for you from the Dark Moon Fair. If that is not enough, at the beginning of the second week on Thursday, WoW's 19th anniversary will go live, and as is tradition, you are getting 1% rep gain increase per year of the anniversary. So this year, on the 19th anniversary, it's gonna be a 19% experience and reputation gain increase from the event. But that should not even be necessary, as you should be. If you follow the guide, you should be done reaching Renown 18 on the reset day, on the day of the reset on Tuesday or Wednesday. You won't even need to wait Thursday for the WoW's anniversary rep buff. A lot of it, or we can say most of it, thanks to the sneaky Dream Surge buff you can still benefit from with your rep tokens. The Dream Surge plus 50% experience and reputation gain buff that you can choose in the zone where the Dream Surge is active can actually work with the rep tokens of the Dream Wardens of 10.2. So after you have stocked up all of your rep tokens after doing all of the story quests, etc., you can move on to the Dream Surge active zone when the 50% buff is active and gain a whole lot of extra rep. Following this guide bit by bit in the first week should get you somewhere between 16.5 or so worth of Renown levels. So what this means is all you have to do is wait for reset day, wait for the weekly quests to reset, go and do the Super Bloom again for 1000 rep, go do the Worthy Ally weekly quest for 500 more rep, and then the Profession quests for 500 more rep. That's another 2000 you will get on reset day, and a few handful of reputation world quests here and there should get you to Renown 18 at the very beginning of the second week, which is ultimately the important week, because the second week is when Raid opens, is when Mythic Plus season starts, PvP season starts, so that is when the competitive, the grindy stuff begins, and that's when you should also be done grinding your Renown for this Augment rune. The other guide available is the typical classic what to do guide at the release of the patch, which is a bit broader than just the rep gains. This is also about what to grind to get to maximize your crests, to maximize your gear upgrades, for example. Obviously, when we start the guide on week 1, it's quite simple. Just make sure to complete the rep guide to reach Renown 18, to have your infinite augment rune available, and then get your spark, which you will be getting from the quest line at the beginning of the patch, as well as capping your Drake crests from the open world content. These two steps you will just do passively. As you do the main storyline, the side quest, the world quest, you will be getting these 2 points, spark and crests, done. When things get busy and crowded, obviously, is at the beginning of the actual season on week 2. Week 2, of course, you have the first requirement, which is to cap your crests. Presumably, we're gonna assume you won't really need to cap well-playing crests, as the item level they can be used at is quite low. So cap your Drake, Worm, and Aspect crests. Remember from our previous guides and tutorials of the patch that you can now earn lower level crests from higher level content if you have capped the crest at that higher level content, which means if you already cap your 90 aspect crests by doing 8 Mythic Plus keys, you can just continue to do Mythic Plus 19 or higher keys to then get Worm Crests. And then after you have capped Worm Crests from Mythic Plus 19s, you can continue to do plus 19s or higher to get Drake Crests. So it's not like the beginning of this last season where you had the annoying moment where you wanted to push high keys for higher item level reward from the key, but you still needed to cap Worm Crests, so you had to go down from a plus 18 to a plus 12 just because you had to cap your Worm Crests. That's not gonna be necessary. It's not gonna be a thing in this season. You can just continue to do the key levels you were already doing and benefit from the downgrade of crests, which will come as a reward. What you can do at the beginning of the season, actually this time around, is to have a fresh, shiny max item level crafted item on week 1 of the season, so week 2 of the patch. 486 item level. Very important, of course, it will be very likely the highest item level piece you will get on week 1, so choose carefully what to go with this craft. Obviously, a few tips here and there could be, for example, to wait, wait if you are a raider, wait to do normal raiding and then heroic raiding, wait even to do a few mythic plus keys to get some gear, and then decide after in which slot you want to have your first crafted item. It will be pretty unfortunate if as soon as the reset comes you go to do the weekly to grab the second half of the spark and immediately craft your pair of gloves or pants or boots with an embellishment, and then go through the rest of the week doing the raid and mythic plus and find multiple other boots that you could have used as a big upgrade, but you just don't because you have a crafted item now in that slot. Besides that, you can use the rest of the week by filling out the upgrades on your gear with Drake and Worm crests, depending on which kind of item level you have been receiving from Mythic Plus and the raid. Normal raid can, for example, be upgraded with Drake crests. Worm crests can come from Heroic, for example, so depending on what you have been doing, you can use these crests to upgrade your gear. And then just 2 upgrades from your aspect crests. That's because you have 6 upgrades per week now, but you just used 4 60 crests. You just use them to craft your big item. So you just have 2 upgrades left for your aspect track of gear upgrade. Week 3 is when things start getting more smooth and repetitive, where at this point you should be 463 item level in all your gear, so getting Drake crests, capping Drake crests is no longer that important. It's more important to cap the Worm and Aspect crests. This is also another important week because it's the back-to-back week where you get to craft a second crafted item. So, by week 3 of the patch and week 2 of the season, you can have both of your embellishments already ready to go on your gear. Same as for week 1, but this time even more important, you might want to wait, opening your vault and crafting your 486 crafted item until after you have done your farming, until after you have done your re-clearing, right? You do your re-clear of normal raid or heroic raid, so you get to wait and see which items you can grab from those raids to then see what you can choose from the vault as well as what you want to craft with your spark. The same goes for upgrades, of course. Now with Worm Crests you have 6 upgrades worth that you should probably wait until you have done your re-clear and your farm to see which upgrades are worth having on your gear, as well as usual, just 2 upgrades slots for your aspect gear upgrade, because once more, for yet another week, you just used 4 upgrades worth of aspects to get your crafted item. At the end of the first month of the patch is when you will have more room for upgrading, because in week 4, week 3 of the season is when you won't have to craft another item once more, which means you are left with opening your vault, doing your re-clear of the raid, getting your aspects and worm crests again, and at this point you can spend all of your 90 aspect crests for your 6 different upgrades on your gear. This will be, funnily enough, the only week in the first month of the season where you will have all 90 of your aspect crests usable just for upgrades, because on week 5 of the patch, week 4, the first month of the season, once more you will have your other crafted item. So 4 more upgrades worth of aspect crests will have to go in your crafted item, so you will only have 2 upgrades worth of aspect crests to have on your gear, and once more you will be able to spend all of your worm crests on upgrading the rest of your gear. After these 4 weeks full of upgrading your gear and getting at least 3 different items from the Great Vault and 3 different crafted items, you should be about 476 plus item level in every slot. This, of course, without including the progress that you have had in the raid, because in that case, with more and more heroic pieces as well as mythic raiding pieces, the item level will, of course, grow much higher than that. even though, of course, it won't be nearly as high as the item level growth that we have had in Season 2, where this very similar guide that we had for Season 2 got you at 443 item level after 3 weeks. So about 2 or 3 item levels below the max at the time, before the myth track was introduced, was obtainable after 3 weeks, whereas here, after about a month, you will still be some 7 to 8 item levels below what will be the max item level of the season. But what's worth still is that we have a nice and tidy guide to keep track of what to do in the first few weeks of the patch, combined with the more condensed one of what to do to get to Renown 18 in the first week and a couple of days of the patch. So, as usual, I will leave you down the links in the description for both of these written guides, and then, with this out of the way, I'm going to leave you to the rest of your Wednesday. So, we are starting the goodbyes by thanking all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel, which can, as usual, still be done completely for free. You can like and comment down below on this video, as well as subscribing to the channel itself. So, with these things out of the way, thank you guys again for watching, see you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, shit, I have done it again. I have got to the goodbyes part and I have nothing interesting to say.